Hey everybody, it's your girl Lily, back with a new series that I would like to call Reading My Book to You All. Oh my gosh, that rhymed. Wow, cool. So as I teased in my Here's a Song to Get to Know About Me video, I wrote a book. It's not a long book. Trust me, it's not a long book. It's a quite short one, I'd say. It's roughly 32 pages, if I remember correctly. And it is an action adventure kind of book. It has a lot of family elements in it. And there is a slight romantic aspect to it between our two main characters. So yeah. And my book is called The Reason Roses Have Thorns. And yes, I designed this cover myself. Isn't she gorge? So, we are going to get into it in this video today. I'm going to be reading you the prologue and first chapter. And drop a like on this video if you want to hear the rest of the story, because there are 8 or 9 chapters, I think. I'm not sure. But as you can see, I made sure to dress accordingly. As you can see, our red and our blue here. And the tagline for my book is, "The line between love and hate is thin." I know, so inspiring, so poetic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you're so kind. Enough of my yapping, let's get into it. Prologue. "Shh, hush, little one," said a mother's voice in a soothing tone. The mother, wearing a purple silk gown, sat in a wooden rocking chair, clutching a tiny newborn to her chest. Outside, a storm raged in the night, rain pattering on the roof. The woman looked down adoringly at her baby, who was playing with a lock of her dark wavy hair. She lifted her head to look towards the door creaking open, a light brown-haired man stepping into the room. He walked over and gave her a brief embrace. "How is she, Maria?" he asked softly. "Quite well. I put a bag of supplies for her on the desk," the woman answered, pointing to the writing desk in the corner. Sorry, I have trouble reading stuff out loud, so you might hear me repeat stuff. The man strode over and opened the leather satchel, sifting through its contents. "Perfect." He placed the bag on his shoulder and walked back over to them. The woman placed the infant in his thickly gloved hands, and a tear slid down her cheek. The man noticed this and bent down to meet her eyes. "You're absolutely sure you want to do this?" he asked in a low tone. "Definitely. I'd never forgive myself if Robert hurt her," she replied, trying her hardest not to cry. She looked into his eyes and smiled. "Thank you so much for doing this, Theodore. You're the best friend I've ever had." The man smiled back, giving her one last embrace before heading for the door. As he placed his hand on the door handle, he paused. "What's her name?" "Princess Rose Lyra Willow," the woman answered. "My daughter." Chapter 1, 19 years later. "Rose, how many times must I tell you to be quiet while we steal?" Rose's father yelled as they pounded down Main Street. It was 7 in the morning, and they had just robbed an expensive jewelry store, leaving the police hot on their heels, the royal detective at the front on a gleaming white stallion. "I know, Father, I know, but you know that I get nervous when we do bad things like this. I've always hated stealing," Rose yelled back, her gray cloak swishing in the wind. The police were getting closer and closer. "Quick, I'm gonna get the loot to the lair. You hold them off," he hollered as he veered down an alleyway. "What?" Rose yelled as she realized what her father had done. She was losing breath, slowing her pace. She was hit by a wave of terror when she heard the detective yell, "Luke, hurry up and tackle him!" Luke? Who's that? She wondered. They had been chased by the detective before, but she didn't know anyone on his team named Luke. A gray horse separated from the left of the crowd, surging forward before halting abruptly. The rider stepped down, hand on his sword's hilt. "There's nowhere to run, Red Bandit," Luke shouted. Rose turned around and unsheathed her sword, fear filling her eyes as she stared at the mysterious figure. She slowly took a step back, her heart racing. Rose hated that nickname. Fancy folk had started the trend since Rose's father especially liked to target them for their jewels, but now everyone called them that. It felt so heartless to her, like she wasn't even human. It wasn't her fault, her father... Luke interrupted her thoughts by sprinting towards Rose unexpectedly and tackling her to the ground. She toppled over, landing on her back, Luke leaning over her. They stared into each other's eyes for a brief moment, awkwardness encasing them. Luke brushed a lock of his messy blonde hair away from his left eye, puzzled at the sudden soft appearance of this foe he thought would be much more intimidating. Rose couldn't think of anything confident to say, since she was usually able to outrun these people when her father stuck around. This approach he had taken to this theft was quite out of the ordinary to her, after all. She thought of only one thing she could do in this instance, although it did seem pathetic. Begging. "Please, don't hurt me. I haven't done anything. My father, he forces me to steal against my will," she whispered between breaths, gasping for air, overwhelmed. Luke hadn't meant her any harm, so he quickly rushed to reassure her. "Don't worry, I won't. I only act tough to please my dad. I am gonna have to arrest you, though. Sorry. I am gonna have to arrest you, though, but you can defend yourself in court," Luke whispered back. "Luke, what's taking so long?" Luke's father hollered. They hadn't realized over 5 minutes had already passed. "I've got you now, you nasty red bandit," he shouted back while pretending to aggressively tie up Rose's hands. "We're gonna take you to the jailhouse," he whispered while gently tying the knot. Luke helped her to her feet and walked her over to the group, putting on a fake smile of triumph as the men cheered him on. Rose hung her head low out of embarrassment. "Great job, son," Luke's father boomed. Luke thanked them for their encouragement and helped Rose onto his horse. The detective pointed ahead and shouted, "Move out, men!" After the group had trotted along for a while, Luke separated from the crowd once again and went to the front so they could talk in peace. "So, where are you from?" he asked, eager to get to know this mysterious girl. "I'm not sure. My father told me my mother had forced us out of our old home when I was a baby," she replied quietly. She was curious about Luke, too. She had been very surprised to experience such politeness from a stranger. "What's your name?" "I'm Luke, as I'm sure you know," he chuckled awkwardly. "I'm Rose. That's a beautiful name." Rose had to bury her face in her cloak to hide her blushing. "Thank you. Nobody ever really tells me nice things like that with my reputation and all. I don't have any friends." "I'll be your friend." "That'd be wonderful." As the sun rose higher and higher into the sky, the two marveled at the beautiful countryside. Grassy plains and wildflowers stretched out in every direction, with butterflies dancing through the breeze. In the distance, they could just make out the west and east forests, along with a couple small villages dotting the hillside. Rose had been through this part of the country before, but this was the first time she could slow down and enjoy it, and not have to actively run away from something. "Pretty awesome, isn't it?" Luke said softly after seeing her face light up with joy from the sight of the landscape. "It is. It really is," she whispered back in awe. Out of the corner of his eye, Luke caught a glimpse of his father approaching them. Knowing he'd be furious if he caught them talking, he quickly told her, "Keep your head low. My father's coming. I'll do the talking. If he says anything rude, ignore it." "Oh, son, I knew you could do it. You caught a red bandit. You completed your training," Luke's father beamed, pulling his horse beside them. "You're going to be a great detective after all." Yes, sir," Luke replied. "Oh, don't be so modest, son. You're finally living up to that family name. You caught that nasty red bandit in an instant." Rose winced under her cloak. Father," Luke began nervously, "why do you hate the red bandit so much? They've never really hurt anyone, and we've never bothered to get to know them." He instantly recognized the idiocy of that question. "Did you hit your head or something? You know why. They're menaces to society. The king and queen trusted us to catch them. It's our responsibility," his father replied, growing bitter. "Don't ever forget that." It's getting dark. This looks like a good place to set up camp," Luke stuttered anxiously, changing the subject. "Come on, men, go ahead and dismount. Time to set up camp," Luke's father yelled back to the group. "We'll finish this later," he hissed. After the group dismounted their horses and tied them to a nearby fence, the officers started unpacking their tents. Luke pulled a navy blue tent out of his saddle pouch along with a gray tent and a pair of shackles. Rose stared at the dark metal fearfully. Noticing her gaze, he quickly grasped for an explanation. Look, I hate to have to do this. It's just protocol when we set up camp with criminals, Rose sighed, finishing his sentence. Luke just kept his mouth shut to avoid worsening the situation while he untied the rope and clicked on the shackles. When he turned to face where he put his tent, he was surprised to see that another officer had already set them up for him. You deserve some rest, Luke. Great job today, the officer said, turning to leave. Luke thanked him and led Rose into the gray tent. Inside was nothing but a blanket and a large metal sphere that looked like a cannonball. I'm so sorry, Luke frowned, feeling awful. He produced a lock and key from his pocket and secured the chain attached to Rose's shackles to the metal ball. Rose sat down on the ground, tired and humiliated. Luke sat down next to her. I wish I didn't have to do this. You're not dangerous. The system is so stupid, he groaned. After a brief moment, Luke stood and turned to face her. I'm going to bed now. Good night. Good night, she muttered as he left the tent. She looked down at the shackles on her wrists and lay down on top of the blanket, tears welling up in her eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to be such a downer. I'm just reading the book, okay? I do want to point out, before I read you the rest of this, because I am going to be splitting this up into the two, probably got to read 2 chapters at a time in these little parts. This is probably a lot more intense that you'd assume me to be like or write about, I guess, because in my bio it literally says just a 12-year-old Christian girl that loves to have fun. But this does have a lot of intenser elements, I guess. What I'm trying to say is there's a bit of violence in it. Nobody bleeds or gets injured or anything, but there is sword fighting, there is yelling, there is a level of talking about abusive things. So just want to point that out. But hey, The Outsiders was written by a 16-year-old, so don't judge me, okay? All right, I will see you in the next video for chapters 2 and 3, and I hope you enjoyed. Bye.